My name is Brian Bradbury. I was one of the engineers who used to work with Eddy. I go back a long time. First time I met Eddy was in 1969 when I was with BEA at Heathrow. Eddy was the favourite bunch that used to be at Gatwick with only one Viscount flying in and out. And Air Tours, it was the start of BEA Air Tours. And the first time I met him was I joined the company of transferred over to Gatwick. And the first thing they told me was I was on a course. I was only 22 at the time, 23. I've been trying to get on a course for the last 2 years with BEA, and now here was the chance. So I found myself in Derby. Eddy's in Derby as well with the Gatwick crowd, and I'm sitting in the lobby of this very small bed and breakfast. And this very tall, suave individual came over with his hat and his overcoat as he always used to wear. And he came over to me, and I was the nervous youngster sitting in the corner. And he said, "Are you Brian Bradbury?" And I said, "Yes," and I stood up, you know. And he said, "I've got news for you." And I said, "What's that?" And he said, we're sharing the room together tonight. And I thought, oh, okay, you know, I mean, maybe that's what they do. I'd never been away from home or been away anywhere, you know, the first thing. So anyway, I can still remember that was the first meeting of Eddy. And there was something about him that struck me. He had this mannerism of him was a very quiet spoken voice. And he always looked to the side when he looked down at you. And he had this little glint in his eye. And it's funny, all the years that followed on from then, I will never forget that type of Eddy. Well, anyway, we finished the course, it came back to Gatwick. I wanted to be an engineer, a licensed engineer like Eddy, right? And he took me through everything. And when I got to Gatwick, I was on his shift. So, of course, that was it. Eddy showed me and exactly what needed to be done to become a licensed engineer. When I finished, I got my license, thanks to Eddy, and I was still on the shift. He was my supervisor. I eventually found ourselves on the Boeing 707 course at big BOAC. I mean, we were BEA, you know, just rubbish according to them. And Eddy and myself, there were 4 of us who got picked to go on this Boeing course, and we did it. And the thing was, at 4:30 we used to finish the course and then go into the hangars at BOAC, you know, and I can remember going in there, the 4 of us, because it was the only way, and then we would go to the canteen and eat. It was cheaper, our allowances covered that, and there was always plenty to have a beer on after it. And we go in there and disappear onto this aircraft, and the hangar foreman says, "Listen guys, this machine is flying to Delhi tonight. Do not touch anything. You can go on the aircraft, have a look at everything." So 4 of us go up there and we disappear into the flight deck. There's only 3 of us in the flight deck, and Eddy's down the back somewhere. All of a sudden the klaxons are going in the flight deck, and you know, all this noise. And we'd only been on the course about a week, so we didn't know what the hell had happened. And when we came running back, all the masks had dropped. All the masks had dropped. And not only had they dropped, where's Eddy, you know? Well, on the old 707, there was an emergency for the cabin crew. If the automatic didn't work, they could deploy it from the back. The habit of all engineers is they have to touch things. Yeah? Even if someone says to you, "That's a fuel control unit," you're looking at it, but you've got to touch it. You know, then you think, "Oh yeah, that's the fuel control." Well, what Eddy did was right at the back, there were floor panels that you could pull up, which the cabin crew could. But he pulled it up, he didn't have a torch, but he wanted to feel what was in there. And he did, and he tripped it, and of course down came this particular thing. But in the early days when I was there, they only had one Viscount, that used to Guernsey Viscount, I think. And we all used to want to go on it. I can remember I was on the headset. Eddy was standing by me, just watching. I mean, he was the one in uniform. I just had the overalls on at the time. And there were 2 VCAL with Caledonian girls walking behind the Viscount, and the engine started. And I could see Eddy come running over to me. And the next thing was, I couldn't stop laughing because there were two girls right behind. I looked at Eddy. They were holding onto their hats and bending right over, and the kilts were right over the top of them. And when I said that, I could turn over to the camera. I turned to watch Eddy, and he turned around, and he just couldn't believe it. And that's the story of Eddy. But more important was, my career through British Airways, or Air Tours as it was then, was, there are certain people that you use as mentors. Eddy was mine. Whatever I wanted to do, how I wanted to do it, I always sat in his little office and said, Eddy, what do you think I should do? And his famous words to me, and they always ring out to me, is, you go for it, boy, because you're going to get it if you do. You won't get it if you don't. And I still remember that. Today, I'm still in the aviation business and in higher places. But it's people like Eddy. He will always be very much part of my life because he was the most kindest, he was the most honest person I ever came across. And I must admit, even when he used to get angry, he could never really raise his voice. He used it forcefully but never raised it. The rest of the crew room would be yelling, but not Eddy. And he will always, I hold him in great respect. He will always be part of my life. And today, thank you, Eddy. It was great knowing you, and I will continue to remember you. Thank you.
Thanks.